Hi, welcome to the Business of Fashion. My name is Kristen Paulus, and I'm going to be your instructor for this semester. And while we start off, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of give you a broad overview to literally the business of fashion and really start to unpack the global infrastructure that's involved. So as we start to unpack literally our journey in learning, we're going to go through a 5-part segment. First, we're going to just lay the groundwork. What is that global fashion industry? We're going to talk about supply chain, sourcing, really that business strategy. What do you set out to achieve? Second, we're going to unpack business law. And some of you might not think about the fact that literally the fashion business, particularly because of our global infrastructure, has a lot of legal aspects that really help to control our supply chain. From there, we're going to go on to marketing, color, and then fashion research. So this is where we're going to begin to look at literally the breadth of the entire fashion cycle, from point of creation, that idea someone has, to literally make it into a final product that ultimately gets distributed to our end customer. So that's where parts 4 and 5 will become involved. So that design process, how we look at tech packs, how we start to select our manufacturers, and then ultimately, how do we market our brands and then distribute to point of retail. So from there, we will continue, but first, let's have some fun with you. What is fashion? Okay, so that was the awkward minute of silence. Hopefully you paused there. So let me just ask you, is this fashion? 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 Okay, so typically we do this in the classroom and we have a lot of fun with it, and there's a lot of voting in terms of, oh no, this is not fashion, but be careful, this is the 80s and I was probably in that decade. All right, so the answer is yes. This is all various fashion, and it's literally based on, the time. So, if this is the 80s or this is the 1920s, 30s, that yes, it's very much fashion, socially appropriate for that time period. But as we know, fashion continues to evolve too. So I'll ask you, okay, what's going on here? For those of you that don't know, Brutus started as a dog, and then he evolved into paper mache, and then obviously to where he is today. So when we look at the evolution of Brutus, so is true with the evolution of fashion. Fashion does change. It evolves over time. But it's not necessarily revolutionary to where, pants are pants and dresses are dresses and jackets are jackets. But it will evolve in terms of how it appears. And I'm going to give you this video in the assignment so you can enjoy it. But it's just it's a video that shows literally fashion over the decades. And you will see that, yes, they're wearing dresses and pants and skirts and tops, but it does change over time. So let me ask you this. What's going on in this picture? So you can see that Brutus is dressed very dapper, very unusual for Brutus based on what we just saw. What you'll also see is in this tunnel, there are the football players coming out. And what's happening here is that this is the NFL draft. So of course, Brutus also has to dress up to be socially appropriate for the time and the occasion. And in this case, it's for the NFL draft. So when we think about, literally what is fashion, it is socially appropriate for the time and the occasion. And then it's also evolutionary. It's going to change. And that's what makes it so exciting and fun to study. Okay, so in the fashion industry, now we're going to spend some time unpacking some of the key parts of the industry. So first up is the area of ethical fashion. Fortunately, there's a lot of really, really good initiatives, laws, legislation, control mechanisms that are in our industry today. Having said that, there's still some work to be done. And there's still some work to be done, not only in the safety and security of the manufacturing process, also in terms of the environmental impact, in terms of the process. It was the water from the factories contain dyes that go down the streams that impact local water sources and or crops. And then, and last but not least, is how we treat the fellow humankind. The workers that are bringing together the products for us. So just know that if you haven't seen this documentary called True Cost, highly encourage you to watch it. I'm going to share with you the trailer so you can see that. but it is worth a watch because it'll start to show you some of the challenges that still remain in our industry. And a lot of it's being driven by the excess in terms of consumerism. Okay, so now market value, what's the potential, what's the scale of our industry? To say it's $3 trillion. Hopefully you heard that, because that's a great big number. And it's a significant part of the gross domestic product for the United States and other countries. And when you look at the categories that contribute to it, men's and women's, children's, okay, yes. You can think about that as you go through a department store. You'll see those key categories. But also know that luxury goods and or those sneakers that you're wearing, the sportswear footwear industry equally contributes significantly to it. So there's the 5 categories that really are composing the vast majority of the $3 trillion industry. So now I'll ask you, who are the most profitable fashion brands? And as you start to look at this next slide provided by McKinsey & Company, you will see a multitude of names that are on there. Some you probably predicted. A lot of you probably predicted those luxury brands, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Kering House. But then you'll also see some of the fast fashion retailers, and that's where literally Inditex and H&M will come in. You probably thought of Nike and or Adidas. There they both are. But did you think about TJ Maxx and or Ross stores? And when you think about, who's literally getting the money, and are they managing their businesses well to where they can actually achieve a profit? And the answer is yes and yes. So when you think about this, I just want you to have the perspective. I don't necessarily need you to memorize that Hermes is 1.3 billion. But I do want you to be familiar with those key businesses that are working hard day and night to literally contribute and hopefully result in a profit. Now, as we think about the next slide, in terms of employment, are there jobs? And a lot of you that are picking this either as a major or minor need to know that yes, there are jobs out there. 60 million jobs, probably more. And also know that Columbus, Ohio has a very rich infrastructure in terms of employment. And most of that is a result of the vision that Mr. Wexner had with L Brands, several decades ago. And because of that vision and the infrastructure that he built, the specialty store capital of the world started to reside in Columbus, Ohio. And now, as that's evolved further, there's a significant amount of supply chain infrastructure within Columbus, Ohio that still resides, and companies have also evolved. Now, salary range, here it is, and I did this query based on looking at, that design and marketing in, which a lot of you, I think, are interested in going to. And yes, you can make a decent salary, and I will also tell you, you can make much more than that, depending on where your career starts to evolve to. Okay, so now let's think about the global infrastructure and the global supply chain. If I say textiles, and if I ask the question, which countries have the highest value of textile export? And for those of you that aren't familiar with the word textile, just think of fabric. So if you went to your local fabric store, Joann Fabrics, those fabrics that are being exported, who are the largest countries that contribute to that? Well, here you go. So China, European Union, definitely 1 and 2. But then you've got India, Turkey, and then U.S. and Vietnam. And when you look at U.S. in particular, and Taiwan, I'll go to U.S., Taiwan, and Japan, those 2 countries are very, very good at specialized fabrications. And these fabrics could be used in a multitude of industries. To think aerospace and or automotive, yes, and that's another key area in terms of where it is. So here is this chart just in a different lens. And you'll see that, I always say all roads lead to China, and they do as it relates to our industry. But right behind that's European Union. Also some other countries that contribute to it. Now, if I ask you in terms of clothing exports, well, which countries have the highest value in clothing exports? Now we're talking finished product. So this is the t-shirt, this is the blue jeans, this is the jacket, that is the sweater. So when you think of that, now let's look in terms of, how does this look? You'll see China, European Union, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. And these two countries in particular are very, very contributing to the area of factory, actual production. And a lot of that in Bangladesh in particular, because of the concept called chasing the needle, meaning companies are looking for low-cost labor to actually manufacture those goods. China, absolutely number one. And then European Union, if you stop and think about the previous slides to where I showed you some of the fast fashion models, whether it be Inditex, Zara, or H&M, there's a significant amount of volume coming from Spain because of that. And then the other element in terms of European Union is luxury goods. There's a significant amount coming from France and Italy and some Germany in terms of those luxury goods and production. So that's what composes it. Okay, so then, as we start to look at, what are those trends? Speed to market, yes, fast fashion is driving that significantly. Omnichannel, these retailers are interfacing with you in lots of venues, whether it be social media, whether it be just literally a text, whether it be, going to their website and or the brick and mortar store. The younger generation is really pushing the area of social responsibility, driving the fact of transparency. So that is still a trend along with sustainability, making sure that we are being sustainable to our planet in the process, along with commerce. The businesses are out there not for they're going to make the one great sweater. No, they also need from a business standpoint to be sustainable. But now as you think about today, what's going on, it gets even more. So phone as a store, just think about the last time that you bought something on your phone. I'm sure it was probably within the last week, if not the last hour. Personalization. Not only the personalization in terms of that garment that you're buying, but really how the fashion brands are interacting with you. They're getting really, really good, and a lot of that's contributing to AI. Machines replacing people? Yes. Think about the last time you went to a store and probably did a self-checkout. That's a machine replacing people. Retail experience. As we continue to see the comeback of bricks and mortar, we will definitely see that retail experience twofold. One being that social experience that you go with a friend or a family member, you want to interact with people. Or two, the experiential that's happening from a technology base in the store setting itself. Price optimization. Everyone buys on price. You literally will stand in the store, get on your phone, and query it to see if there's a better price someplace else. And if so, that brand just lost you as a customer. So getting that price right is essential. Virtual try-on. Part of the risk we have with this whole e-commerce shopping online is the fact that you can't necessarily see the product on you and or know about the fit. So there is virtual try-on for eyeglasses, there's virtual for furniture, there's virtual try-on for clothing. Used as new. Oh my goodness. This is so fun to think about because when we think about Depop, Poshmark, the RealReal, all of those trading platforms out there, along with thrifting, literally the thrift stores, this is a huge business that, I don't necessarily think was predictive, but I can tell you is very real. And again, there's a huge movement from the younger generation that's cultivating this. And I love it because when you stop to think about the fact that the average consumer is buying 70 pounds of clothing a year, and then you stop to think about where is that going? If we can continue to keep the circular fashion going, that is a beautiful thing. All right, dollar stores, Family Dollar, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, dollar. It's another key concept that's hot. And when you look at what's happening in that space and the fact that they're taking the consumer's money, they are a competitive market out there. And then last but not least, and I love this too, similar to the thrifting, the fact that mom and pop stores are coming back and being desired. And this is that local person, whether they have a food truck, whether they have a pop-up cart at a flea market, or literally the brick and mortar store. There's a lot of people that want to support the local community and then that local entrepreneur. So it's fun to watch. And the best part about this industry, it's going to continue to evolve. So this slide is now, this slide's going to change in the next 10 years, but it's fun to watch and it's fun to evolve. So let me end with this. So is this fashion? And what I would say is, based on it being socially appropriate for the time and occasion, if it's a Saturday and you're in Columbus, Ohio, and it happens to be the fall and football fever's going on, then absolutely, yes, this is fashion.